Okay, so you can see here I've got the section view open. I'll maybe just switch to my exterior view so you can see what the model looks like from the outside, and that's probably as complete as it'll ever need to be for your exterior views. But the interior still has a way to go. Guys, can you keep it down, please? Okay, so again, looking at the section view there, obviously I need to fill in a lot of the interior design elements, but I also want to get the levels to match more closely the real building, especially so I can get the stairs set up. So we do need the levels to be pretty close to what they're going to end up being before contemplating putting in the stairs. And if it's not obvious why, it should be in a minute. Okay, so I've got the AutoCAD file open that I've saved for you on the P drive, which has the PDF file inserted and scaled so that you can measure from that drawing. So I'm just going to measure between my levels there, and I can see that the Y dimension is 4485. So that's our floor to floor height, or the height between our levels. So it's actually more than I've got. That's unusual, so that's good. So 4485 for level 1. Not 485. Left a 4 out there. 4485. Okay, so the great thing about Revit is if you set it up properly, the things that need to will go with it. So here you can see my floor sits on level 1, so when I move level 1, it'll go with it. Now, going back to the next level, so I'm going to measure from, look again, the way they've labelled them here, level 1, 2 and 3, I wouldn't recommend. It's the way you do it in America and in Russia and Japan, a lot of other places, but not in Australia, typically. So I'm going to keep mine as ground floor on the bottom level. But you can see there I've just measured the distance between those two levels again, and this time it says 4116. So I'm going to round that off and make it 4115. Now that's the distance between the levels. When you select a level, you'll see below the tag or the name, it'll have a height measured from 0, which is here at the ground floor. But if you want to measure between your levels, just keep an eye out for the dimension that measures down to the level below. And you can easily just go and adjust that. Okay, and so that's giving me a total of 8600. And notice that the floor's gone with it, but also the ceiling. So if you remember how I made the ceiling earlier, you can see that I set it out from level 2. And I've got a height there of -385. We might need more than that in the end. We might need maybe have to go down to -600. But the point there is that it's measuring from level 2, so if level 2 moves, that ceiling will go with it. And so now, back into AutoCAD, so I'm just going to do the same thing again from one level to the next. And so this time it's again coming up as a funny number, 4296. I'm going to round that off to 4295, maybe even 4300. No, I'll just keep it 4295. Okay, now here I've got a parapet just above my roof level. So I'm going to get that out of the way first. If I move the roof up and it goes beyond the parapet, it'll cause some problems. So I'm just going to move the parapet up by just dragging it out of the way. And now I can select my roof level, type in the new measurement in the dimension there, 4295. And, well, actually that's pretty close to what I want in the end anyway. Hopefully you can see why that was important. If I'd left the parapet there, chances are the roof would have gone beyond it and the top of the wall would have been below the floor there. Is it? Oh good, okay, yeah. So let's see what it is on the drawing. It's probably, yeah, so here it says 1545. Don't know why it's got it like that. Well, see, it may be that height that you've just said, but well, actually here, so looking at these measurements, if you do the calculation, Let's see if it's going to be the same thing. So 25700 minus 24155 is 1545. So yeah, the parapet. No, so 1.5 metres tall, not 15.5. The whole building, I haven't been adding them up as I go, but we'll see in a second in Revit. Yeah, it's a bit over 15 metres, or almost 15 metres, yeah. Yep. That's not that tall. Okay, so 1545, wasn't it? Something like that. Anyhow, it doesn't matter if we're slightly off, it's easy to move it. And again, hopefully you can see there that the walls go with it. And this is really is one of the best features in Revit, the ability to easily adjust levels as you work through your projects. And I've had lots of projects where I've had maybe a few different floor levels and then many stories, and I'll just roughly get the levels in that I know I need and worry about the actual values for those heights much later on, often when I get close to construction stage. And so when I'm going through the planning and approval process, I'll just make sure that the envelopes, the top of the buildings are pretty close to being right, but then you often won't refine all of the levels close to the ground until you've got the site fully worked out. So when you're working at ground levels, you've got to do a lot of site works and moving dirt around and checking the slopes and doing accurate surveys and things like that. And again, that's not a problem with Revit. You can easily move levels up and down slightly as long as your objects are tied to them properly. So, floors, walls, ceilings, roofs, they can all be associated with your levels. And then stairs are essentially dependent on levels. So until you've got a good handle on your levels, like I said, the heights don't need to be perfect, but you do need to know where they fit in to your design before you can even think about making stairs. And so, well, when you make stairs, before you even think about using Revit, if you're designing a staircase, what would be the first consideration when you're establishing the say the number of rises that you need and the overall height of your staircase? So before you worry about the little things like even the width of it, yeah, pretty much, yes, that's right, the floors it's going between. So the whole point of a staircase usually is to go from one floor to another. Right, so you're going from one height to a different height, so you need to establish those two heights. That's your starting point when you're thinking about the way it's going to be designed. And so it's the same with Revit. You need to establish that floor-to-floor height. So maybe just going back into the section. So here we're going from ground floor to level 1. So we need to know that first. Then when you go into use the stair tool in Revit, you've got a choice between two different stair routines. So this is just, again, because of the way Revit is. You've got the older routine, which is stair by sketch, and then the new one, which is stair by component. Now, I'd recommend for the sort of designs you're doing, stair by sketch, the older routine, is going to work better for you most of the time. The only time you might need to use stair by component, I'll just open it so you can see. The only time you should need to use it at this stage really is when you're making something like a full step spiral stair, because it's got that special routine in there for those. Otherwise, use stair by sketch. Much easier, and it's much easier to edit than stair by component. You need to make a decision at the beginning though, because they're not interchangeable. You can't switch between those two different types of stairs, and they do make different objects. So if you use stair by sketch, notice over here it says stair, and if I click on the little type selector, I can see the list of stairs that I've got available. Let's close that. If we go to stair by component, notice it says assembled stair, and I've got different options for the kinds of stairs I can make. So they're a different type of object, and you can't, like I said, you can't switch between them. Oh yeah, that's automatic with stairs. Yeah, I'll show you. So you'll see that right away. So I'm going to make a stair now. So like I said, I'd recommend stair by sketch. And even if you're going to do a spiral stair, I would just have a bit of practice using Stair by Sketch first. That's by far the easier one to use and easier to understand as well. So again, making sure you click on the down arrow there, then you can go to Stair by Sketch. And over here, notice again in Properties, below the stair type, so this is the kind of stair we're making. I'm going to leave it just on the default one. And actually it's worth looking at that name. So you can see that it's 190 max riser, 250 mil going. So hopefully you're at least a little bit familiar with those controls. Your maximum riser is 190 and 250 mil is your minimum tread for public spaces. Do you know what the minimum for private spaces is? Private residences and things like that? You can go down to 240, but generally 250 is your minimum. Okay, so that's important because then we set that to go between our levels. So here you can notice it's got ground floor and level 1. You can change that to different levels, but I'll just leave it for now because I'm happy obviously to go from the ground floor up to that level. So say for example you put an extra level in between ground floor and level 1, then you might need to check this and make sure it goes to level 1. Okay, so going down further in that panel, so we've got our levels established, and then you've got the width, we'll come back to that. But then the most important after the levels is the number of risers. So notice you can't just type in a riser height, like you might think you can. When you're drawing stairs, you'll often be thinking that way, that you just set your riser height first and just draw with that spacing. But maybe if you've had to work with different level heights, you'd know that you actually would start with the levels and divide that up between the number of risers so that the risers are all equal. So here, the number of risers is 24 divided between ground floor and level 1, and that gives us a riser height of 186.9. So that's the maximum riser height we can possibly have based on those level heights. Now, we don't need to use the maximum, we can have more. So you can have more risers, which will give you a lower riser height, because it's divided by a bigger number. Okay, and it's good to go lower than the maximum. You don't always need to have stairs, up close to 190. It's actually better if you can have them a bit lower. So, so I'm going to go down to 26. If you push for space, you can go close to 190, but that's up to you. Okay, so then, well, we've got number of risers 26, but can I do those in one flight? No. What's the maximum number of stairs in a flight? Yeah, 18. That's right. Yeah. So 18 stairs in a flight is the maximum, in Australia. But Revit will let you do more than that. So you need to watch that yourselves. And I'll just do it first with 26 though, even though we know that's not legal. So I'm just going to click a start point now. Notice it's on the run option. So that's the default option for drawing stairs with a straight line. So I'm just going to click a start point, and then it will show me with that black rectangle how big 26 risers would be from that centre line. So I'll go all the way to the end, tick to finish, and that's made a straight stair with 26 risers. Again, too many, but let's have a look at them section anyway. That easy. So you can see that divides perfectly between the two levels, but of course I've got too many risers. So I could delete that stair and make it again, or alternatively just select it, and just like floors and roofs and other objects that you make in sketch mode, once you select it you'll get the option to edit sketch. So I'm back to the lines, and I'm just going to delete these, making a window around them and pressing delete on the keyboard, and go back to the run tool and make a new one. So I'll start this time maybe over here, and then instead of going all the way to the end of that rectangle, I'm just going to count the risers. So you can see there that grey text that's probably a bit hard to read is telling me how many risers I've created by snapping that blue line across. So I've got, 26 in total. So I'm going to come across and do half. So 13. You can see it's snapping there and tells me 13 rises created, 13 remaining. So I'm going to click. And now I'll click a new start point down here. And then come down and go all the way to the end. So notice it puts the landing in there automatically for you. Right, so that easy. Tick to finish. And let's have a look at that one. There we are. So I've got a section box view so we can see that in 3D. Okay, so still a little bit of a boring stair, so I'll delete that and... sorry, I won't delete it. I'll select it and go back to Edit Sketch to change it. So just make a window and delete. And I'll do a new run, and this time I'll change to the curving option. So you've got there the line option. If you change to the curve, then you need to give a centre point first. Okay, so coming out from there I can give a new start point, and then coming around snap to rises in the same way. So then I might want a landing, and then I can do, oops sorry, that's my start point. I want a new centre point as well, so the centre point will be maybe about here, and then my new landing about there, and then coming around doing a new point. Now notice that it's given me straight lines for the landing because the landing's been made automatically. And so the nice thing about the Stair by Sketch option is that you can just edit these lines without doing anything else. They're just simple 2D lines. So I'm going to delete those lines. I'm going to draw my own in. So here you can see I've used the run option, but that's greyed out now. But then below that we've got the boundary option. So the boundaries are your green lines. So they're the housing or the stringers on your stair. So I'm going to go to the draw panel here, and you can see I've got all the different shape options that you normally have. And I can go to draw an arc. Okay, something like that. And I can do the same with the lines at the bottom. So you can draw almost any shape you can think of. Okay, so that'll work now as a stair. Unfortunately, the blue line is a bit difficult to change, so you really just need to, if you use the run tool to draw it, you just need to leave that blue line alone. Tick to finish. And so that's worked as a stair, and again looking in 3D. There we are. Okay, so once you've made your stair, you'll see that it will generally have a railing created automatically as well, but the railing is a separate object. So if you select the railing, you'll see it's got its own type selector, and I can change that to a different kind of railing. So change this one as well. Okay, so the railings are one thing, and then the stairs, again, are the original object. And if I select that, you'll see I've got a few different types built in. So these will be in your project, whether you've loaded anything or not. So monolithic would be a fairly typical concrete stair. Now, if you want to get stairs from the library, it's a little bit more involved. But what I might show you instead is how you can do the different kinds of stairs you want by changing the properties. So I'll move this stair across somewhere else and just go a bit more into properties. So I'm going to go back to the floor plan and do a new stair. So again, Stair by Sketch. Okay, now this time I'm going to look at the width there, and I can see it's 1100, sorry, 1000, and I'm going to make that 1100. And then I'm going to draw a run along or close to the edge of that wall. And this time I'm going to maybe try and get the maximum number of rises there, 18. and then I'm going to cancel it. So remember, these are just lines, so you can always select them and then use the different editing tools like move, or you can just drag and snap to different objects like anything else in Revit. Okay, so now I can go back and continue drawing a new run. So with the run tool on straight line, I can draw just like before, a new flight, and it will put my landing in for me. Okay, so pretty simple stair. Again, tick to finish, and we'll have a look at that in 3D. I'm going to make it a little bit more of a design styled stair. So, I'll just do that quickly, that's easy. So, yep, so I'll just do a quick U. Okay, so again, stair by sketch, and I'll just do one over here. So, we've got 26 rises, so if I do 13, and then come across, you can see it's going to give me a line to show me that I'm in line with my other end, the top of my stair, and then coming down. Now, actually, that's one too many. Okay, so I'm going to shorten this stair first by one tread. So I'm going to select the blue line and just drag the grip down. And now back to the run tool, and we'll come across in line with the last flight, and then come straight down, and the landing automatically will go in. That easy. So now, just like the other lines I was working with, I can move, maybe to line up with the wall, and then use move again and snap it into the corner. Oops. Yeah, of course. So yeah. Okay, so there are a few ways of doing that, but probably one of the easiest would be to either put a reference plane in and then change the dimension for that, or, now this is freezing up, just give it a minute, there we go, or you could even just select the line on the side, type in a measurement, so 500 or something, then you need to do the blue one, also try the one after that, and then drag the dimension across. Yeah, I'd maybe think about using a reference plane, but because if you do it that way, then you need to drag the blue line across afterwards. That works. Okay, so yeah, so going back to the, and so I didn't show you the risers either, I'll show you those in a second, but okay, so when you select the stair, go to edit sketch, we've looked at the green lines, which are the boundaries, but you can draw stringers with a different shape as well. So this black line is a stringer, not a stringer, a riser. So I'm going to delete that black line and go to the riser tool, and I can draw in my own riser, make it curved or something like that. So if you want curved stairs or curved steps in your stairs, you can do that too. So there we are. Now, what I really want here is a cantilevered stair. So I'm going to show you how to do that with properties, because they're, I know, very popular these days. So I'll put that back to straight, because cantilevering a curve would be an absolute nightmare. What's happening? Oh, sorry, I drew a boundary. Oops. Sorry, that won't work. Has to be a riser. Okay, so firstly there, my railing is going up along the wall. That's no good. So remember, the railings are a separate object. You can edit those by going to edit path, and then you can see there the path of the railing in plan view. I don't even need to go to the plan. I'm just going to delete those lines there. So I've just got the railing along this side here of the staircase. Tick to finish. You can see there it is, but it's gone from here. I can also change that to another railing. Okay, so now I want to make this, like I said, to be like a cantilevered stair coming out from that wall. So I'll do that in properties. Right, so by selecting it, you can go edit type, and just like most things when you change it, duplicate, give it a new name. And then I'm going to go down to the riser type. This is the main thing. I'm going to set that to none. Also, well, I'll just show you what that does. So if I click OK, the risers are gone. So we've got open treads now, or open risers. Now back to edit type, and I'm going to also turn off the stringers. So I've got the left stringer. I'll just do them one at a time so you can see. The left stringer is the one up against the wall. So I'll set that to none, and now we don't have that stringer there, which just improves the look of it. In real life, you probably would need a stringer recessed into the wall or something like that. If it's a timber frame wall, you definitely would have. If it's brick, then you need to have a steel support for each step anchored into your brickwork. Okay, so again back to edit type, and now I'll turn off the other stringer, the right stringer. Set that to none, and we've got a cantilevered stair. Okay, so then I might make that look a bit nicer just to get you started with materials. We're going to do a lot more on materials this afternoon, but for now let's go edit type, and you can see there we have the tread material by category. So I'm going to click browse, and I know I've done a little bit of materials with you anyway, so this should be pretty straightforward. I'm just going to select one of my timber materials, right click, duplicate, and well, let's just call it wood stairs. Go to appearance, and what do you do here? If you're making a change to the appearance, what should you be doing if you're making a new material? You essentially copy or duplicate, yeah. So here you can right click on the appearance tab and either go to duplicate or replace. Both will work. So I'm going to go to duplicate, just to get you used to that. And I'll change this image here to something else. This comes with Revit. So this folder is there whenever you've installed Revit. You'll have that whole library. Now I've given you another one that's a lot bigger. You're welcome to copy it, but it's 100 gig on the P drive. And then in the interior design folder, there's a folder called Material Images. Yeah. Yeah. And this is only a small fraction of my materials library. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff in there, and I'm going to go to wood folder here, and you'll see. So on the P drive in interior design, and it's called Material Images. Now don't forget, you can search for these online, and you will find a lot more and probably things closer to what you actually need for your design by looking that way in Google. So just search in Google, just Google Images. Okay, so just open up Google, and okay, so if you want sandstone, okay, so sandstone, seamless, texture. Okay, and then just go to the images tab and you will find thousands. A lot of them will be watermarked, but you should be able to find plenty that aren't. Yep, that's right. So that one is watermarked, unfortunately, but yeah. So these marks overlays over the top. Unfortunately, more and more these days are watermarked, but you can usually find some that aren't as well. That's watermarked as well. Yeah, that's right. Yep, view image, save as a JPEG, and then it goes in just like anything else when you click on the image name here. Okay, so I'll just leave this one as it is. I'll go further into materials later. Just want to assign something there so you can see it. Okay, it needs work, but good enough for now. So just to finish off there, you'll find often that you need extra components in stairs that are either too difficult or impossible to do just by changing the properties. So in this situation here, if this stair was going up this way, I'd need some sort of support. I couldn't have it floating. So if you want that, you'll need to model those extra things in. Just remember using model in place and making extrusions. Remember, you can make an extrusion in any plane and you should be able to model in a support. Yeah. 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 But maybe they're a better option, rather than trying to do something complicated like that, would be to think about redesigning the stair. So from a construction point of view and probably a design point of view, it makes more sense. So I'll show you an easy way of changing that. I can delete these lines, go back to run, and instead of having the landing turning in an L shape, just do a landing that's straight. So I can have my 18 steps, then a landing, and then some more in another flight. And that will avoid that problem. My railing's gone a bit skewy, but it doesn't matter, I don't need the railing on that side anymore anyway. Okay, so that view, remember that has a section box, so it's cutting out the top of the stair. I'll just bring that up so you can see. And also there's one last thing I've got to show you as well. Okay, so I've got the stair now coming through onto the level above. And Revit does a lot of things for you automatically, but one thing it won't do is create holes for you. You have to do that yourself. So there you can see is my stair, and I've hidden the floor, so I'll unhide that now. Okay, so the stair is just going up and going straight into the floor, and the railing is just sticking through it. So we need to make a hole in the floor. So there are a few tools for that. You've got the shaft tool, which will automatically do a void through your floors. But think about whether that's necessary. And you can see there in that video or the image that pops out, it's really mainly there for multi-storey stairs that are the same shape, where you need to cut through the same shape on each level. Now, if you're not doing that, if the holes in your floor are going to be different on each level, then I wouldn't worry about using the shaft tool. I would just do it in a simpler way, and that's what I'm going to show you. If you select the floor, remember you can always go to Edit Boundary, and then just change the shape of it in Plan. I'll go to level 1. Right, so there's the outline of my floor, and now I can draw a line along the top edge of my stair, down and across. And you might be thinking, well, how do I know how far across you need to go? Well, I'll show you that in a second. So I'm just guessing. Right, so I've just guessed the width of that opening. Now I'm going to use split to break the line up here, and then trim to join these lines either side. So I'm just taking a notch out of the floor essentially. If it's a hole in your floor, it's even easier. You can just draw a rectangle and that will make a hole. Tick to finish. I'm going to say no to that one and look in the 3D view. So there's my hole. I don't want to keep that, I'll put that there as an example. But you can see there it's cut away that part of the floor around the stairs, which is what I really want.
How deep is the gap?
Yeah, well, so you've got to work that out. And that's why Revit won't do it for you, because that's something that you should be working out as part of your design. So I'll show you how to work it out though. Okay, so I'm going to make a section. So remember, you're working with interior spaces in 3D, and if you can't see what you want in Plan or even in a 3D view, don't be afraid to make extra sections going through the areas that you want to work on. Even if you'll never use that as a view on your sheets, it's really useful to work on the stairs. If I have a section going right through them, now I'll go into that section, and now we can really get a good handle on the heights. Now, I'm going to have a ceiling in here, and I've already started to work that out with this reference plane. So at first you might be tempted just to measure from the corner of the floor down to the stair. And well, I'll show you that. If I use the measure tool, I can measure from that corner down to the step directly below, which would be this one. and it's 2650, plenty of room. But we're going to have a ceiling. So again, I've put this reference plane in to help me work that out. And I've got a pretty decent bulkhead there at the moment, but I've brought the level up, so I'm going to bring that reference plane up as well to, let's say, 700. Yeah, 600, so it'll be 600 below the floor. So, yeah, 700, that'll leave me 550. That should be enough. Okay, so I'm going to measure from the reference plane instead. Okay, so from there down to the step below, and you don't want to push it too much. So even though this step might be the one that's directly below, remember people are going to be walking from here, so that's where you'd want to measure to. And so that is 2100, and that's okay. So if I wanted to, I could try and take it back a little bit further, but really that's where you'd want it to be if you can. 2 metres is the minimum above a stair. You could, yeah, just think about the surfaces. So you won't need all your surfaces everywhere. So the ceiling can vary in height as well. And depending on what surfaces you have, you may not need the same bulkhead or ceiling space either. But I'm assuming here I'm going to have air conditioning, so I'm leaving a bit of room. Okay, so that's it. But if you put in a reference plane, if you maybe need to adjust your floor, you might say, well, I know I need the ceiling cut away from that point onwards. So you can draw a reference plane from that step, and that will just help to remind you where it is when you look in plan, and I can see there's the reference plane I've just made. So it's working it out very similar to the way you would on a drawing board. And if I go to level 1, we'll see that reference plane there as well. And, well, I got it right anyway, just guessing, but if you don't, easy to change. Oh yeah, so the very last thing, the ceiling would be the same. So I've put a floor in. I haven't put a ceiling there yet. So I'll show you, I'll make a new ceiling. I was going to show you a quick way of getting the ceiling from the one I've already done, but I might make a new one just to remind you. In the ceiling plan for ground floor, I'll go to the ceiling tool, and here automatic ceiling isn't working, so I'll go to sketch ceiling, and the level here you can see is on ground floor. Remember, I'm working from the level above, so I'm going to go to level 1, and I'll make it negative, what was it, 700? Yep, negative 700, and it should sit on that reference plane I've got. Using pick walls, I can then just go around picking the main walls there. If it doesn't join nicely like it has for me there, and that's just total fluke, half the time it won't, you can always just draw lines. It's just like making floors. Okay, so tick to finish, and what I really wanted to show you there is that everyone forgets you've got to cut a hole out of your ceiling just like your floor. So back to my ceiling plan, edit boundary, and half the work's done because I've already done it on the floor above, so I can just pick those edges. Have a look in, let's have a look in the 3D view. Okay, so I've cut the ceiling away, which is the main thing. But remember, if you're going to have an exposed, well, it's really a fascia technically. So if you're going to have an exposed section between your ceiling and your floor there, which is pretty common around staircases, and it's a common problem you'll face in interior design, how to make that look good, or how to treat that at least, so you'll have some sort of material finish there, then you need to address that. And there are a couple of ways. Probably the easier way at first in Revit is just to make the ceiling really thick, so it fills in that space at least. Not the way you build it. The way you would build it is to have the ceiling just like that and then cover that section up with basically a big panel. So think about that anyway. What I'll show you when we do lighting is a quick way of making the ceiling thicker. But also remember what you're going to be doing with Saul in Photoshop, and also actually when we start looking at rendering as well, we're doing it here with Revit. I'll open the perspective view I've got already. You may not see any perspective, so here I can. So I need to think about that. Now I could do it in Revit, but you might find that some of those little details, if you're going to do a lot of the touching up of your perspectives in Photoshop, you can just fix there as well. So it doesn't all need to be modelled perfectly, but just think about those things. Right, so yeah, that should be plenty on ceilings, unless anyone's got any questions. I mean, it's not ceilings, stairs. I mean, mainly that's what we're looking at. So, anyone got any questions about stairs? Oh yeah, I'll show you some quick ways of getting on to the next level. So, okay, I'm going to get rid of my extra stairs. So I've just got this one. That's the one I want. And yeah, so I'll just tidy that up a little bit. Let's get this stuff out of the way. Okay, so an easy way of getting it onto the next level is to use the multi-story option here. So you can set it to go over many levels, and basically that means it's going to repeat the same stair onto those levels above. That option only works though when you have equal level heights. If you have different level heights, another way, instead of using that multi-story option, is just to use copy to clipboard and then either paste a line to selected levels, or sometimes a better option is to do them one at a time and just check them as you go. So if I go to level 1 now, then I can go modify, paste, and then this time align to current view. And that gives me a chance to look at it in section and see the differences, because my floor to floor height is different. So my stair, being the same height, now is a bit too high. So I've got a few options. I can either reduce the number of rises, or I can reduce this top offset back to 0, which will mean it'll keep the same number of rises but divide them between these two levels. Okay, so then I can go back to select my new stair, do it in level 1, copy to clipboard, and again this time we'll go to level 2, paste, align to current view, and now looking in my section, it may look okay, but you'll see if I select it, it's not high enough, and I can tell because the top offset is minus 180, so make that 0, and there we are. So 3D. I can't see it in this view because it's again got the section box on, but I'll just bring that up a bit now. So notice the railings and everything else. So you'd need to have a hole in the roof, and then you'd make a new roof structure above that. So you'd need a new structure there. Or you could have a hatch that opens. For a space like, for this sort of building, I don't think that would be all that practical. If it's got many occupants, then you really would need to have some sort of extra canopy or something. Well, I mean, it's meant to be accessible, isn't it? They must have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're allowed to use it, I think there must be some allowance to build a structure up there. It's the only way you can get up. And if it's up against that wall, I don't see the problem, because you've got only roof on the other side, on the neighbour's property. So you're not going to overshadow anything, and it's tiny anyway, the area that you'd need. It'd be this size. Yes, yep. So, yeah. So here, if you're going to do what I've done, you might have a look at using the shaft tool to make it all the same. So, maybe I'll show you shaft. All right. So, yeah. So we'll fix the floor. And so it's actually a good thing because I've done the got the reference plane marking what I worked out before, so I can get rid of the extra lines in here. So I'm putting my ceilings and my floors back to the way they started. And so now I'm going to go and draw in the ground floor plan using the shaft tool. Just make a rectangle. Right, and then you've got options there for the height. So I'm going to make the ground floor the base constraint, but I'll make the base offset 500, so it starts above the ground floor. And I'll make the top constraint parapet, so it goes all the way through past the roof. Click to finish. Back into my 3D view. There we go. So yeah, if you do have openings that are the same size, that's probably the easiest. Definitely the easiest. So don't forget about your railings around the edge of your floor though, on the other levels. So if you haven't used the railing tool, it's there in the same panel as the stair tool. It's as easy, in fact much easier than the stair tool. So you can either continue the railing from the stair, but it's usually a better option just to make a new railing. So as you saw before, they have a path, and here it would be very easy just to draw around here, following the edge of the floor. Except I've gone from this edge of the stair. So let's fix that. Oops. There we go. Alright, so if they don't join perfectly, mine don't, you can see, don't worry about those little details. Chances are you won't even notice them in perspective. Okay, so hopefully that will be enough for you to do your stairs. Again, let me know if you've got any questions about stairs or railings or anything. No? All good? Yep.